Good morning. This is Dr. McDaniel at GYN Corner. I'm a board certified obstetrician gynecologist in Midtown Manhattan, New York City, and I'm bringing to you all things health related for women. Thank you for joining me at the corner today. And today I am in Florida, enjoying the Caribbean style weather and perspiring, which is uncommon for me. As I mentioned in a previous presentation, I don't usually perspire unless the temperature is over 95. So, upper 80s, lower 90s, I'm cool as a cucumber. But over 95, you got me. I'm going to start perspiring. It's officially hot for me. But I like heat. I think it's good for the skin. And I never mind being hot, but I do have huge issues if I'm cold. So I'd rather be too hot than too cold. But anyways, let's see. So today I'm going to do kind of a part two. The last presentation I did was complaints of vaginal dryness all of the time, and that it can potentially be from a low dose birth control pill, so a 10 or 20 mic birth control pill. And today, another source or etiology or reason for someone having just constant perpetual vaginal dryness is a vaginal infection. That comes up quite often. Someone comes in and says they don't notice a discharge, they don't notice a bad odor, they don't really have any itching, but they've been feeling vaginal dryness. I will always do an exam and obtain cultures, because constant, every day, all the time, just feeling of discomfort, irritation, awareness of the nether parts, that's commonly going to be from inflammation of the vaginal vulvar tissues, and the most common reason for that inflammation is an infection, be it bacterial or yeast fungal. It's fair game. So if someone has that complaint, what they should always do is come into the office and ask for an exam. So with the exam, it will usually be obvious. There will be inflammatory changes of the vulvar vaginal tissues. Usually when someone says they're feeling vaginal dryness all of the time, the outer and the inner lips or labia of the vulva are going to be involved. So that's what we call a contact vulvitis. So it's an irritant that's causing an inflammatory reaction of the vulvar tissues. They're going to be swollen, erythematous, red, sensitive, and sometimes when I do the exams, the tissues are so inflamed and reactive that they have little tiny spots of bleeding points. So what we call a punctate inflammatory response. So the little tiny blood vessels, the capillary vessels of the vulvar vaginal tissues, are fragile and they bleed wantonly. They bleed just spontaneously, or they bleed when I touch them with the Q-tip to obtain the culture. So sometimes it's quite striking how strong that inflammatory response is. Now, usually most women who come in for complaints of vaginal dryness for an evaluation, they don't come in with only 2 or 3 days. They'll usually come in with weeks. Like the lady from last week, she came in complaining of 5 weeks of vaginal dryness. So the vaginal tissues have had a long time to react to the irritant and to have changes from it. So if you have vaginal dryness, and she said what most people say, they say, why did you wait 5 weeks to come in? You know, we've been open throughout this lockdown. And she kept saying, well, I thought it was going to go away. And that's the usual scenario. Someone says, I just think it's going to go away. So my response is always, if it's been more than a week and you haven't done anything unusual before, or to what you can see as a source that may have caused the dryness, and you haven't done anything since, it's been more than a week, it's most likely not going to go away if it's been present for a week. And especially if you had it before a menstrual cycle and you still have the dryness after menstrual cycle, it's not going to usually go away on its own. It needs to be evaluated. And then once we can evaluate it and know what the source of it is, then we can address it. So the first most common reason for constant vaginal dryness is the low-dose birth control pills, and that's a 10-20 mic low-dose pill. The second most common reason, I should say the second most common reason is an infection, be it yeast, fungal, or bacterial. They can mount an inflammatory response, or contact vulvitis is what that is, and the treatment for that is going to depend on what the infectious source is. About 98% of the time, I'm usually correct on what I say is going on when I do the evaluation, but I always obtain cultures, and I recommend the patient to send the cultures because 5% or less, it's going to be an unusual strain of bacteria that we don't usually see in GYN, or is rarely encountered in GYN, or it'll be an unusual strain of yeast. So it won't be the typical Candida albicans. It'll be one of the minor players, so Torrelepsis glabrata. Those are potential sources, and they're not treated with the usual treatments for yeast or fungal infections for vaginal imbalances. So it's always best to come in and get the cultures obtained too, so that it can be appropriately addressed. And in addition to treating the vaginal source of the infection, I always prescribe a topical anti-inflammatory, antifungal usually, because that will give more immediate relief while the infection is being cleared and treated. So a topical to be applied throughout the day. If someone applies it throughout the day, after they use the restroom, first thing in the morning before they go to bed, 99% of women will tell me that they felt better within 12 hours of starting the topical treatment. So I hope that's been helpful information on another potential source of constant vaginal dryness and discomfort. Thank you for joining me at GYN Corner. This is Dr. McDaniel. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.